computer. Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. Today, we're very lucky to have Ty Gibson with us, and he is someone who, if anybody has overcome adversity, it's him. He's had multiple transplants, he's started businesses, and he's going to share with us how he drew on how he drew on spiritual principles to see him through all of that and be the happy, healthy person he is today. So welcome, and it's wonderful to have you.
God, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on. I really do.
So tell us some of your stories, because example is the most powerful form of leadership. So I want you to share your example of how you've
Absolutely.
made it all work.
Well, yeah. Again, thank you. Well. First of all, it's every day is a bonus day. Is the way I look at it, right, Scott? It's every day. I'm just glad to be here, as a young child, I was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes early on, and then in the '70s, I was one of the first to be put on the insulin pump. Back when it was really dialed in to be just an insulin pump. So early on, I started facing adversity back then, and then as I got older with brittle diabetes and just continued to battle diabetes over the years, when I turned 30 years old, my kidneys failed.
Wow.
And then so they were doing again, uh, God has a plan for us, and it was just there was a research study being done over in Baltimore that they were doing dual transplants because the doctor said, "Hey, Ty, you have such brittle diabetes. If we just do a kidney transplant, we're afraid you're going to just go through multiple kidneys too fast." So there's a doctor out in Baltimore, Maryland, doing a kidney and a pancreas. And so we were super excited to hear that. And he said, "But I'm not sure you're a candidate, so let's go out and check it out." So I went out there, and sure enough, I worked out to be a great candidate. So with that being said, though, I had my mother, who was 60 years old, said, "Ty, if my kidneys match, then I want to be your donor," because she said, that's God gave us two kidneys. I feel like that's my role, and I want to do that. So we went through it, and sure enough, she was a great match, perfect match for me.
Wow.
So now we're waiting to see. Obviously, now we have to wait for a donor pancreas, right? So months went by, 7, 8 months, and it was rough though. It was really hard because my kidneys were. I wasn't on dialysis at this point. I was still trying to work, but I would I would go to work and come right home and go to bed and try to just make it through the day. So it was really challenging times, but we pushed through. And then I got the call midnight on Super Bowl Sunday. I'll never forget it. I get the call from Baltimore, and they said, "Hey, Ty, there's been an accident, and we may have a perfect match for you with a pancreas." She said, "Get ready. We may need you." I'm in Texas now. Keep in mind, I'm down in Austin, Texas. The transplant's going to be taking place in Baltimore, so obviously I need to be ready to mobilize to get there. So we get ready. I call my mom, who lives in Texas, but 5 hours from me. And so I call her, and the crazy thing is, she didn't answer the phone the first time. I'm like, "Good Lord, I've got to get her on the phone. That's my kidney." So we got a little nervous there, but we worked through it, and we connected, and sure enough, we jump on the planes, and we get there, and it's I always said it was kind of like the movies. It was just hurry, 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 and then you get there and you wait, right? And it was just a lot of preparing and blood testing and IVs and just getting ready. But in the surgical room, they had the organ that they were getting ready, and then I was going in surgical, and then my mom was going to be in the room beside us. So we had 3 operating rooms going on.
Wow.
Massive group of a team, right? So 16-hour surgery. I came out of that surgery, and
Wow.
and really, my mother was sitting beside me in a wheelchair when I woke up in recovery, and I felt. I already felt different. My skin was a different color.
Wow.
I just felt better. It was amazing. And I'm trying to run through this pretty quick so I can give you the scenarios, but and so that was 16 hours. It was great. First year was really challenging. I left the hospital there taking 60 plus pills a day.
Holy
Um,
moly.
so a lot of anti-rejection meds, a lot of just things that you obviously have to take as a transplant patient, but a lot of regulating, trying to get my meds regulated, all this to maintain these organs from fighting your own body, right? Because it's a foreign organ basically that has been placed in
Right.
my body. So got through that. That was a year of just tough recovery, a lot of medical, a lot of, I stayed up there for a month just trying to, dial everything in. And really, so if you think about it, the crazy thing is I got a kidney and I got a pancreas. So after having diabetes that many years, all of a sudden I got a pancreas, which now is producing insulin, so I have no diabetes. So I went for 12 years without diabetes. The pancreas lasted 12 years, which was absolutely amazing. There was a lot of things as a kid I never got to enjoy as a diabetic and things like that. But the funny thing is I couldn't eat sweets, and the first thing I did, and I went and had me a candy bar and a Dr. Pepper. first time I had that as a kid, and it was quite amazing. But they told me I couldn't make that a habit though. So anyway, so I got through that, and I just look back on that, and I really, growing up though, I never really. My parents taught me just to kind of dust off and keep going, right? And so I never really was shared my story. I just kind of put my head down and kept going and working and doing the things. But I realized that sometimes when I share my story, people were really interested in it. And I thought nobody really wanted to hear my problems, but what it was really, I think I was encouraging people to basically get through things. And so at a family reunion one time, my wife said, "Hey, do you mind sharing the story?" And I told them, and I had like four people text me that evening and go, "Thanks for sharing." And since you shared, we're going to sign up to be organ donors. And
Wow.
I thought, how selfish am I if I could simply tell my story and maybe help someone save lives, right? And so about a year and a half ago, my wife and I were able to sell our business, and so now that's what I do. I just go around and I encourage people to fight through adversity. But here's the great end of this story, Scott, as I want to share, is I had that pancreas for 20 years. That was my mother's. I had the pancreas for 12. I had the kidney for 20. So 5 years ago, my kidneys fail again, and I got put on dialysis. And I always tell people, if you know anybody going through dialysis, stop, pray for them, because that is
Yeah.
a really tough place, and it's just a hopeless place. People are going there just to try to hang on. And I was in there for 8 months. My sister was a match, and we thought, man, this is going to be great. I'm getting my sister's kidney, and I'm going to get right back going. But right there at the end, my sister's kidney, there was something that was going on there, and they said it's not really going to be a good match. So I had to stay on dialysis quite a bit longer than I wanted to. So my wife, who thought she was a different blood type, says, "Ty, I'm going to go in and I'm going to just see if I can do one of those organ swaps where she donates her organ and I receive someone else's and matches." And so, but anyway, she goes in that day and she calls me and she's crying. And she says, "Ty," she said, "God's changed my blood type." And I'm like,
Wow.
"What?" Well,
Wow.
I don't know I know God does some miracle things. And I just don't know if she forgot her blood type or if he actually changed it. But my wife ended up being a perfect match.
Wow.
And so 5 years ago, I received my wife's kidney, and man, it has been an awesome, awesome thing. I feel better right now than I have in many, many years. So what I do really is I just try to encourage people, whatever they're going through, on the other side of adversity, there is a light, right? I mean, there's good things there. We just got to push through. We got to stick to our faith, and know that that there's a plan, and that we're in the hands, we're in the right hands. We just got to keep a positive thinking, positive mind, because the mind is powerful. And that's really, in a really quick synopsis, that's really that's my story. And man, it's been really amazing how many people have just reached out and said, Ty, thanks for sharing. This has been an amazing thing, and I'm going through whatever they're going through. And sometimes just encouraging people. This world we live in, as is tough. Tough. And so we all need a little encouragement, and sometimes just to help each other up and get through things.
Yeah, I've been in Toastmasters for more than 10 years, and one of the things that really gets driven home is how impactful it is to hear people's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I always encourage people, and that's why one of the reasons I was excited to have you as a guest, because I always want to have people share their stories of how they overcome adversity. And certainly, I mean, there had to be times when you were down, right? Or
Oh, absolutely. So, and that's a good question. People ask me all the time, says, how did you get through it? What did you do? And so I really sat down, and and I kind of have a step that I went through every time I face adversity. Um, I think about it. And the number one step that I always deal with is, I say, the question I have, and you can apply this to anything, right? When we face adversity, the number one thing is that, my question to myself, am I going to grow, or am I going to die? And when I say die, am I going to, my dreams, my hopes, my purpose, am I going to let those die because of what I'm facing right now? Or am I going to do something about it? Because I feel like we can take, a step forward, or we can take, poor pitiful me, start really, getting down on ourselves. But sometimes that's my first step is, am I going to grow, or am I going to let this thing win, or am I going to continue to push through?
so when you when you decide to grow, what do you do when you don't know what to do to grow? So it's
Well,
like, okay, I want to grow, but how do I do that?
and that's where I always say the mind. Think about small steps. Don't think about the end game. Think about taking some small steps in that situation. And sometimes it's getting away from the environment that's what's causing that, whatever that is. It may be taking one small step to get to that step 10, but you got to take that first step. And a lot of times it's mind. Again, I'm going to go back to the power of positive thinking, because a lot of times we just got to think we can get through it. And when I say, how do you grow? Well, first of all, we can't grow until our mind is thinking positive things. Because if we keep thinking negative, then we're going to do negative, and so it's a domino effect. So I always say the first step is to think positive. Okay, this situation that I'm in right now is only preparing me for something down the road that I'm going to be. That this is equipping me to be a better me down the road. So what is it right now that I can do to get through this situation? In my case, a lot of times it's powerful thinking, right? I'm a competitive minded person. I'm small business, and so I've had to, a lot of times I've got to encourage myself to get through it. And I talk about other things. Think about who you're around. Think about the environment you're in. Is it something that's helping you get through this situation? And the saying, right? I mean, we are some of the five people that we're surrounded with, right? If you're around, if you're around positive thinking people, then you're going to be a more positive. They're going to help you think positive. But if you're around people that are bringing you down, when you get in that situation, we need to think about removing ourselves from the negativity and get into a positive place. And
Yeah,
that's
I certainly relate to that. I mean, I've had more, I've had my share of challenges just like everybody else.
sure. Yeah, and so what were those some of the things how did you push through that? Well, I'm curious to just your
For me, I was my whole thing has been not turning away from the light, and not giving, and to me, that means not giving up on myself. And so there was one time where um, I was out of money and out of options and out of anything, and I said, God, I mean, if you want me on the street, then that's where I'm going to be.
Right.
I don't know what else to do. And I meditated. I've been meditating forever. And I got meditation, just hang in there, hang in there. At one point I made a goal to make it through the next 3 minutes to give you an idea of like how much pressure I felt then.
Yeah.
And then I finally got inspired to, you know, uh, go and see my parents. And I was in my 40s, and I said, well, why would I do that? I mean, I'm an adult, I'm responsible. It's not their fault. And the light said, you know what? You either go see your parents, or you're giving up on yourself and turning away from the light, which you swore you'd never do.
Hmm.
Okay. I said, what do I do when I get there? I heard my meditation. Don't worry about it. Your job is to get yourself there, and it'll all happen from there. So I show up at my parents' house, and I all of a sudden, just this energy just starts flowing through me. And I start saying things that I had never put together about my relationship with them, and how they had promised me things, and I had believed in their promises, and they had reneged, and what it had cost me. And I didn't ask them for anything. And I had never put all of these um promises that they had made me, that I had counted on, that they reneged on. I had never put them together as a group. And this just kept flowing out of me. And it was like I was to the side of my head, listening and watching as
Wow.
this came out. And they wanted to say something, and I said, "No, you've lost your ability. You've lost your right to be heard. Your word is not good." And so I told my story, and I walked out of there without asking for anything, with a
Hmm.
check for $100,000. And it was, but even more than that, it healed my relationship with my parents, and we never had a falling out after that time. It was like that, just whatever that hurricane was, it cleared whatever was there. And while this was going on, I was just dripping sweat. The energy flowing through me, in my estimation, was so powerful that I didn't believe that any human being could ever resist that level of energy. You couldn't not resonate with that. And obviously that's just a belief of mine, but it is my belief.
Yeah. No.
And so when things get tough, I tell myself I'm not going to turn away from the light. That would be giving up on myself, and I've done that before, and it took me years to recover. And I swore that I would give up my corporal life before I ever did it again. I mean, I much rather die than go through that experience of giving up on myself.
Right. Wow.
And so I kind of bring back that old experience and say, I'm gonna focus on the light, and I know that if push comes to shove, that within me, or whatever that energy was, God, higher self, angels, doesn't to me. I don't care about the label. I care about the experience. And I say, as long as I don't give up on myself, I'm opening myself up to whatever that energy was. And I've seen through my own experience how it can solve whatever problem I'm faced with. And so that's how I've uh, handled not only that problem, but drawn on that experience to handle problems since. Because that was 1997. So what's that, like 28 years ago?
Mm. Wow. Wow, what a story! I mean, that's and I think it goes back. And I think the first thing you said was that small step, 3 minutes. What can I do? What can I do in the next 3 minutes that will help me get there? And I think it goes back to that again. You asked the question of what are some things to uh, do or do or grow or die. What does that look like? And I think it's taking find that first small step,
Yeah.
um, like you did, and like I did. I mean, I feel like it was just I I felt like I was just out of. Um, I had hit the end of the road, and I mean, I just kept getting hit with these medical, and I just I had to find something to pull me out of that spot. Um,
Right.
I did. I mean, it's what we do, how we think, and then what we do is helps us get through that. And I give so much credit to just the mind and making sure you're taking care of your mind. In your case, you talk about meditation. I mean, whatever that looks like for each individual, if it's meditating, if it's whatever it is, the mind has to be a place that we really um, cherish, because I think it's such a powerful part of the way we react.
Yeah, I'm building a business just on thought coaching, all about the idea that when I discovered that just because I had a thought in my mind, that thought may not necessarily be accurate, that was a huge thing for me, and then I was able to choose which thoughts I'm going to act on and which thoughts I'm not going to act on, which thoughts I'm going to believe and which thoughts I'm not going to believe. And it gave me a lot more freedom
Mhm.
to direct things, and so that was, and I really, I enjoy helping people, understand uh, the power of knowing what their thoughts are and the freedom to choose which ones to act on.
That's so true. And just so kind of in an overview though, my three steps was, like I was saying, was grow or die,
Right,
hope. And that's what we do. And then how we think is hope or despair. Are we going to, poor pitiful me? And
right,
number three is humor or drama. It's how, right? I mean, because if we start talking and it's a negativity thing, we've got to really find is how the way we communicate verbally is also the way we think,
right.
ties together. And I just, and I think I love what you're doing as far as your what you do as far as the positive thinking and the mindsets. And because I hope more and more people really understand that in today's world we need more of that. We need more of you out there helping people um, get through this. Because when I started doing my podcast, I started a podcast which I didn't think I'd ever would do, and or was capable of doing. But what I've realized is people want to, I mean, like you said, everybody has a story, and everyone has something they're dealing with from an adversity standpoint, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a business, all of these. There's so many different things, and so I've really, through my podcast of No Options Mindset, is I just try to try to encourage people to push through, be a positive thinker, and help them understand that the situation that we're in right now, that they're in right now, that we're in, whoever it may be, is temporary.
Right, right.
And we've got to get through that temporary period um, to see the light on the other side.
One of the things that I learned on a Brian Tracy tape decades ago, he said, think of it like you're walking down a hallway and there are all kinds of doors on this narrow hallway, but you can't see the doors until you've walked down the hallway and are because they're, recessed 2 or 3 inches from uh, the hallway. And that, so if you take a step, then more steps will become apparent and visible.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like that. I always use that as an encouraging thing is that if I can if I can fight back and recenter myself now, that's another step down the hallway, and it's going to enable me to see solutions that were always there that
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see before.
So
That's the hope part, right? Is that there's there's hope that if I persevere, I'll see my solutions.
right. I mean, we don't know what doors are going to open, right? I mean, we don't
Right.
know is, like you said, we don't know which door you don't see down that hallway. And I mean, that's a great analogy. I love, I love the thought of, of talking to people about their stories, because what's been amazing to me, I think it's been as much therapy to me as it has been to anyone else, but it helps me understand that every one of us has a story. So, whatever this audience is listening is going through, just keep in mind everyone's going through something, right? But we need to, again, however we can lock arms, whether that be, listening to you and your podcast, or get with a friends, get around people that can encourage them, and get around the right environment. We can get through this for sure.
Yeah, and I think that, one of the things that I've tried to do a lot is to encourage people to tell their story and to tell them that their story is going to reach people that no one else could reach because they're unique, and that they have something valuable to share, and that um, sometimes it's frustrating for me because I'll tell somebody something, like over and over and over and over and over again. And they'll come to me and they'll say, I was at my church, or I was talking to a friend and he just said this thing and it just made like all the difference to me. And it's like, I'm so excited to share it with you. And I'm going like, and I go like, really? And they go, oh yeah, you've been telling me that for the last 5 years. But you know what? They had to hear it from who they could hear it from.
Right. That's funny you say that, because when I first started this, I went to a group and I was telling them, I said, I want to tell you my story so that you can tell people. And they're like, no, 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 no. You need to tell the story because it's your story and it's very authentic. Right. Uh,
Right.
and so, but one of the things too that I want to also say is, because, and if we think about this from, I mentioned someone donated their organs from the Philadelphia area. They made a decision years ago that changed my life, right? And I, since then, I hit that wall. I thought I had hit the end of the road. I just hadn't have any more. I couldn't do any more. Um, but I was able to get married. I was able to adopt my daughter, and we were able to open our two businesses, and it's been an awesome experience for us. But I want to encourage people that it's such. I mean, it's you don't know, kind of what you just said. You don't know what door is down that hallway. And for me, I mean, I've been able to, we've got 45 plus employees that we've helped in employment. We've got, my daughter who's now 15, and has a wonderful life, and she's been a joy to us. But all that to say, there's so much more in store for us. God's plan is amazing, and I encourage people to just to have the faith and keep a positive thinking, as I've said multiple times.
Yeah, one last thought I want to lead is that I always tell people is that because there's a lot of people that I encounter who are questioning their path. And one of the things that I try and help share with them is that if an idea is uplifting and inspiring and enriches you and other people, then acting on that idea is your path. And
Right.
so I wanted to make sure I had a chance to say that because I know so many people that recently a bunch of people who are retired and saying, I've still got more life in me. I'm not sure where to go and what to do. Say, well, act on the thoughts that you're really inspired on that benefit you and other people, and that you can be certain that that's your path.
So true. I really do. I think we're here to. I mean, we're supposed to help each other, and I think we need to put our arms around each other and try to help where we can. And if that's, like you said, if that's your path to help others, then please, I'm with you. Encourage people to act on that, because there's a lot of people that need you and need whoever's listening, that they don't even realize.
Well, this has been great. Is there anything else that you would want to add?
No, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing and making a difference, and I want to let people know. You mentioned different paths. I mean, I've been down a wild path with my medical, experiences, but I haven't been a man of faith my whole life. But I would encourage people that it's never too late, right? To act on whatever situation you're in, whatever you've done, it's okay, right? We've all made mistakes. We've all been down different roads, and but it's never too late to make changes. And I just want to encourage people to do that. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much. And I've enjoyed this. And let me stop the recording here.
All
So
right,
that's great.
awesome.